roads do not lead to God. There are a lot of people today who believe that all belief systems are the same. They're all equal. There are a lot of people who will tell you today that one person's understanding of truth is really just as valid as another person's. That all religions are really just different paths to the same spiritual destination. There's a fable that communicates this idea, this philosophy, and it says that there were four blind men who were walking down the road when they came up on an elephant. And one man grabbed the elephant's tail, another man grabbed the leg of the elephant, another man grabbed the elephant's ear, and another man grabbed the trunk. And the one who held the tail said, "Hey guys, we've stumbled on a snake." And the one who grabbed the leg said, "No, it's too thick and solid to be a snake, it's a tree." And the one who held the ear said, "Guys, what are you thinking? It's thin and dry, it's a piece of paper, obviously." And the one who held the trunk said, "No, it's a hose." And of course, they all found the same thing. They all found an elephant. And the point of the story is that the different religions of the world are simply partial glimpses. They're just small pieces of a greater whole of the same big truth. This idea is that all religions are really just different paths that lead you to the same place, to the same destination. But that's not what Jesus tells us. In contrast to this relativistic view, Jesus says that there's one way to God. There's one truth. And in the Sermon on the Mount, as a matter of fact, in Matthew chapter 7, beginning in verse 13, Jesus says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many, but the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life, and those who find it are few." So notice that Jesus refers to the gate and the way to life, meaning that they are exclusive. Jesus says there's one gate to life, but the question is, what is that gate? Well, elsewhere, Jesus, if you want to understand one part of the Bible, look at the rest of the Bible. Elsewhere, Jesus identifies himself as the gate, as the door. In fact, in 1 John chapter 10, verse 9, Jesus says, "I am the door. If anyone enters by me, he'll be saved and he'll go out and find pasture." So Jesus is not a door. Notice, he is the door, the only door to God, the only door to life. Jesus says there's only one gate, there's one door to life. He also says there's only one way. So what is the way to life? Well, Jesus is the gate, he's the door to life, and he's also the way to life. In John 14, verse 6, Jesus says, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." So Jesus is the gate to the life. Obedient faith in him is the only threshold we can cross that will lead us from death to life. As a matter of fact, at the end of the Gospel of Mark, in Mark 16, verse 16, Jesus says, "Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned." The threshold to life is belief in Jesus. He is the gate. And Jesus is the way to life. Only walking in Jesus' footsteps and striving to imitate his loving and sinless life, taking up our cross and following him, can lead us safely through this life to heaven. In 1 John 2, verse 5, as a matter of fact, Jesus says, John says, "By this we may be sure that we are in him. Whoever says he abides in him ought to walk in the same way in which he walked." You hear that? If you are in Jesus, you will be walking in his footsteps. If you are in Christ, it's not just about belief unaccompanied by action and obedience. If you're really in Christ, you're walking in his footsteps. And so the way to life is the path of Jesus' footsteps. Jesus says the gate to life is narrow. He also says the way to life is hard. Mark 16:24, Jesus said to his disciples, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it." Following Jesus isn't easy. It carries a cost that Jesus doesn't try to conceal. Furthermore, in John 16, verse 33, Jesus says, "In the world you will have trouble. You will have tribulation, but take heart, I've overcome the world." In 2 Timothy 3, verse 12, Paul says, "Indeed, all who desire to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted." So the gate to life is narrow and the way to life is hard. Following Jesus means short-term pain, but it also means eternal gain. As Paul saw the end of his life approaching, he knew that following Jesus had been worth the trouble, and he faced a lot of trouble. In 2 Timothy 4, verses 6 through 8, Paul reflected on his life as an apostle of Jesus, and he said, I'm already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure has come. I have fought the good fight, and I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. And henceforth there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have loved his appearing. So let's enter the narrow gate, and let's take the hard way, and let's find eternal life.